Hello there. Okay, I'm super glad that you're here for another episode of Short-Term Revolution podcast. Today, I want to talk about some pitfalls that people tend to stumble into while they're trying to use short-term rentals as a tax shelter to be able to save on taxes on their W-2 income. Now, if we have not met, I am Chia Gazier-Fawale. I am a pediatric anesthesiologist and love to chat about real estate. Basically share what we're doing and what my clients have done to build wealth using short-term rentals, save on taxes, generate cash flow, as well as acquire recreational generational assets that their children will actually love to inherit. Okay, so one of the first mistakes that people tend to make, number one, is not even getting started with short-term rentals because they think they can't do it. That's the first pitfall, okay? And that is simply just not even realizing that they can do it, either because they think that they can't afford it, not knowing that they can put down 10%. They think they can't operate it, not knowing that they can automate, a lot of things and hire people to basically do all the work, or even just not getting started and putting off the decision. And then the tax laws are changing, things are in flux. So one of the biggest mistakes is basically sitting on their hands, waiting because of either fear or just not knowing, which is why we have this channel, so that the word gets out, more people get to know what is possible, and they get their coins. So that was number one. Number two is that not understanding how the short-term rental tax strategy works. Now, I made a video a little earlier about how the short-term rental tax strategy works. It is basically based on three pillars. Number one, buy and operate the property as a short-term rental. Number two, materially participate or operate it yourself and log your hours. And then number three, do the cost segregation study to beef up that first year's bonus depreciation. If any of that was like, wait, what? Go back and watch that video. That'll give you the entire breakdown of how this whole thing works. So not understanding that, okay, is the second mistake that I think people make, because they just think, I'm just gonna buy anything, operate it anyhow, and then just show up and where are my tax savings? No, there's an actual method to the whole thing, okay? All right, so number three, and this gets better, okay? Number three is when it comes to material participation, when it comes to keeping track of your activities with the property, some people will forget. And when I say some people, I mean that was me with the first, at the beginning, I kind of oh, wait a minute. Okay. Keeping track of your activities with the short-term rental, if you don't pay attention to it, it can kind of fall off, and then you forget what time you actually spent. So not doing it in real time. The best way to record your hours spent on the property is to do it as it's happening. So it's very simple, okay? You basically have a spreadsheet that shows what you did for the property, when you started, when you finished, how much time was spent. That's it. It doesn't need to get any fancier than that. It doesn't need to be techie. I mean, there are now apps and things that you can use, but honestly, keep it simple, just get it done. Now, what I was finding was that I would do stuff and then I'll plan to come back and document it. But what actually happens is that, number one, you forget. Number two, you underestimate how much time it actually took you, because in your mind, oh, it's just, right? Oh, we just went to Walmart to go buy furnishings. Oh, we just, fixed the code on Hospitable. We just did that. But if you actually keep track of how much time it took you, I started at 12:10 and at 12:50, I got up. Holy smokes, that just took me 45 minutes. Yes, it did. Okay, so this is one of the biggest pitfalls that I see people fall into. It's the trap of underestimating how much time they actually spend on their properties because they're not tracking it in real time. So what I actually do now is that I found that that I wasn't coming back to put it on my fancy spreadsheet. So now what we do now is that we have a WhatsApp chat. That whenever I'm about to do something for the property, particularly if it's something big, like going shopping, for example, I will put on the WhatsApp chat, I will say, going to Target, going to Walmart, right? So that I document the start time. And then I know that when I get back from the store that I can document, I say, okay, just got back, spent time, picking out, furnishings. We bought pillows, we bought XYZ. We went to the property, we dropped it off, we staged it, we took pictures, and I put the pictures on Airbnb. And now it's 7 o'clock. That just took me 7 hours. Now, on a regular day, you'd be like, how did that take you 7 hours? But if you did it in real time, you will see that it actually took you 7 hours. Now, the beautiful thing about all of this is that for the most part, short-term rentals, it tends to be front heavy, okay? So there's no kidding, like the 100 hours are real 100 hours, okay? But usually by the time you actually get it up and running and it's all set up, it gets into more of an automated mode. So the work doesn't continue forever. And if it's continuing forever, then you definitely need to be in our community so that we teach you how to automate your systems and processes and not let this stuff take over your life. Okay? Because that is the next pitfall, is that when people are trying to materially participate, they turn it into a second job. It's like you don't get any points for being over 100 hours or more than everybody else. Like there are no brownie points, okay? So you also need to build in systems so that it doesn't overtake your life, particularly after it is set up. Like I told you, I work full-time. I've got 3 kids. I've got a husband who's amazing and is a pretty hardworking person, okay? But like to actually keep up with life, you can't have short-term rentals take over your entire life. No, ma'am. No, sir. Okay? So that third pitfall, or maybe even the fourth actually, is not having the systems in place and then turning the short-term rental thing into a whole thing that takes over your life. If that happens, it'll be hard to grow. So you've got to build the systems in place early so that, number one, you're able to deliver a quality product to your guests, okay? You don't need to be the one remembering each time a guest is coming to send them a key code. No. Automate that whole thing. Let them get the code without your personal intervention so that everybody gets a key code every single time. And it's not dependent on you being present or forgetting for it to actually happen. Automate the check-in, automate the guest communication, automate, telling the cleaners that it's time to clean, automate the checkout messages, automate the checkout instructions. The same thing happens with every guest. Automate the heck out of it. Okay? And then add a few touches here and there that make your guests feel special. You can still do that. But when I'm busy, I don't even know when we have a guest coming, okay? Just saying. If you need help learning how to automate all that stuff, come into our community, come into our mastermind or whatever. We'll teach you all of that in the back end, okay? Number 5, understanding that it's the IRS requires that you have an average stay of 7 days or less. Now, when I talk with an STR savvy accountant, he says, well, to be on the safe side, you want to make sure they have an average. You need at least 2 for an average. So if you buy your property towards the end of the year, you want to make sure that you actually have the stays to make the average stay 7 days or less. It's hard to make an argument that the average stay was 7 days or less when it's only 1 guest, just saying. Okay. And even with that 1 guest, that's not friends or family. Okay. Because, you want to kind of be with not just the letter, but the actual intent. Okay. You want to actually show that you did have somebody actually stay for 7 days or less, an average. So you want to try to make sure you have at least those 2 stays in before the end of the year. All right. And then if you're going to use the material participation requirement that says 100 hours and more than anybody else, don't forget to log everybody else's time. Okay. Now, in our first year of hosting, I basically determined that the one person that spent a lot of time at our property was our housekeeper. Okay. So what I did was I had her send me the log from the people that she sent over, because she had people that she would send and she would pay them hourly. So that was how I was able to get how much time they spent on our property, because she paid them hourly, right? So I basically had her send me that, and that became my, my way of showing how much time other people spent on the property. So those are just a handful of pitfalls that I see people kind of making. Is that number 1, not getting started because they're afraid or they just don't know how it is, and so delaying. And by delaying, they're basically cutting short how much they can get. Because if you miss it in 2022 when it was 100%, 2023 was 80. This year we're in 60. It's a nice sweet spot. 2024 as of the time of this recording. Now, by the way, there's a bill in Congress that they may take us back to 100% of bonus depreciation. As of today, right now, it's not yet here. Okay. So you don't want to keep waiting until it keeps going down. So not knowing the short-term rental tax strategy kind of, highlights and pinpoint is another pitfall. Thinking that you can just wing it. No. Okay. Number 3, doing the material participation thing, right? Or now over, like basically turning it into a full-time job when it really shouldn't be, when you can automate the heck out of it, right? Not counting your average or not getting your average number of stays, getting at least 2 stays or getting the average to at least 7 days or less, and not counting other people's hours. And I hope this has given you some value. Now, I know that sometimes all of this may sound like, oh my gosh, that's a lot, but it really isn't. Like once you actually like get into it, it's like, oh, okay, so we log our hours. So we do this. And we've got professionals, we've got busy, doctors, other professionals in our community who get to do this all day, every day. And when they get that tax savings check back, they send me little screenshots and I'm like, yeah, like we had a doctor last year who would have owed, I think she would have owed 17,000 and then she would have owed 24,000 and I got back 17,000, or I may be mixing them up. And then another one would have owed 30,000 and then she got back 3,000. So that means 33,000 in total savings. Another one got back $170,000 as a tax return. She bought 3 houses, but still $170,000. So she would have already paid that. Like that money was already gone. But because she bought an asset that she gets to keep, she got back $170,000. So this stuff that we're talking about is not like child's play. Okay. Now, if you would like to make that happen in your own finances or whatever, if you would like to purchase your own short-term rental, I'm going to leave the link down below. You can definitely, join us in the community, okay? strkickstarter.com/STR runway. strkickstarter.com/STR runway. All right? If you got some value in this, be sure to click, subscribe, share, invite your friends to listen as well so that they don't pay more than is necessary in the form of taxes. All right, guys? Take care.